Welcome back, everybody. Lesson number 4. So, I think the only file left we have that we really haven't delved into is this AY and AY dictionary. So, once again, how do we highlight multiple files at one time and open it? Well, Shift, page up, and then Enter. All right, similar files. Well, it makes sense. It's from the same source. So let's tab over. How do we do that? Control, page down. Tab over to description. Well, what information do we want? Well, let's go ahead and look down the list. Tuition costs. Well, these are in-district tuition costs. I've already taken a look at this file, and I already know what number or what information we want. Is in-district tuition costs doesn't differ very much from in-state tuition costs, but there are the in-state tuition cost is more prevalent in the data. So we're looking for the in-state tuition cost for full-time undergraduate students for academic year 10-11. These are fees associated with the school itself. Credit hours charged. It's nice to have, but it's good if you want to compare each school. However, for our analysis right now, we're not going to pick that up. Uh, the second item that we want to pick up, or the third item, the first two was the in-state tuition and in-state fees. Out-of-state tuition and fees for undergrads. And then if you scroll down some more, these are for graduate students, in-state and out-of-state. So if you didn't look at the numbers in terms of variable names, it's very important to know them. So we want tuition 2, fee 2, tuition 3, fee 3, and we want 6 and 7. Not too hard to remember. So we need to now go over to our data file. How do we get over to the data file? It's Alt-Tab. Simple, right? If you look at the column headings, you'll see tuition 2, fee 2, and then tuition 3, fee 3. We were looking for tuition 6 and fee 6, 7, and 7. We don't need the remaining data because that's not what we're looking at. There's some really good information in here, but once again, for our project, we want to be very specific of what we pick up. The reason why I'm making it simple right now is don't want to get too confused with all these columns and datas. Good information to have, and if you do have time and you want to come back to me and ask questions, that's not a problem. Uh, Original thoughts were to include certain things like if you want to search for room, they should have room and board charges in here. Yeah, it's room and board charges. Uh, this is also for 2007. The data actually has historical information also. There's so much information here. You could take days, but once you get the underlying skill sets that we're learning right now, you can include them if you want long term. It shouldn't be too much in terms of additional time and effort. So all you need to do is come back to me, and we could definitely include those items. But back to our project at hand. Let's go ahead and get out of the find, go over to our data. We know we want to get rid of information, correct? And we want it up to tuition 2. How do we get back here? It's Control spacebar, Shift Control left, and then we move back one. So once again, let's try it one more time. It's Control spacebar, Shift, Control, left. I'm still holding down the Shift button, and one to the right because we want to keep the unique identifier. Now we want to delete the highlighted items. How do we do that? Alt-ED, like we learned before. We want to get rid of these X fees. X, I think, highlights that there is some information over here. It's a pointer identifier for the database. We don't need it though. So we need to get rid of that. Get rid of this. Actually, we don't need it all the way up to tuition 3. And we need to get rid of that. And we don't need it all the way up to 6 and 7, correct? Oh, could have got rid of that. And we don't need anything else. How do we get rid of everything else? We go back to, so if I'm over here, how do I get back to cell A1? That's Control Home, right? And then we scroll over to, using the arrow key, column J. I want to delete everything to the right. I go Shift, Control, right. And how do we delete again? Alt-ED. Wonderful, isn't it? So now we have all this information, and if you look, we have the unique identifier. This item has 4,679 rows. I'm not quite sure if you guys remember from our very first lesson, our master institution list with unique identifiers had 7,300 some odd rows. That means this is much less than our original list. Well, that's because some of the institutions didn't report these numbers. That's in our next lesson, we'll really learn how to merge the 3 different files together. So once again, as we did before, we're going to go ahead and save this as a different file name. How do we do that? We got to go ahead and save as, correct? So it's Alt-F-A. Wonderful. So now we're still in the file name. We want to call this version 2, as we did the other one, and save. Press enter. Done. Now how do we close out of this again? It's Alt-F-C. Close. How do we close out of this? Alt-F-C. Now, I haven't shown you this, but if you want to close out of Excel itself, you go Alt-F-X. Now Excel's closed. We have our files. Now, if you remember, this is our main directory file. We're going to need this. We're going to actually use this as a base for all our information because if you open that up, this file has the most records because it has all the universities and their unique identifiers. And the other files, how did I come back to the folder? Alt-Tab. Alt-Tab. Goes back and forth. Alt-Tab. So within the IC2010 version 2, this was our SAT scores. And then we have IC2010AY version 2. This is our our tuition fees. So in our next lesson, we'll cover how to merge all these data, all the 3 files together, and then probably on our last video lesson, we'll go ahead and create our pivot table. Exciting times, we're getting closer. I think we only have 2 more lessons left, and continue navigating through your Excel file using the control arrow up and down, and make sure you also practice going from tab to tab, and we'll make some more progress next time. Thank you.